thank you guys for having us. And we are here in Brazil, in São Paulo. And let's get this thing going. So the first question is from Pedro Estadão. He's right here.
The first question is, this film is seems to be very important for nowadays, what women are doing in Hollywood and stuff like that. But I was thinking if this movie came out like 5 years ago, do you think that it would be received in the same way as today?
No, I think that the themes today are much more relevant, and I think that works to our benefit. This plot is completely fictional. The characters are fictional, but I find this movie to be incredibly empowering. It was empowering for me personally to do it, and I think that this is actually couldn't be a better time for a film like this.
You know, we started this film three years ago. So it is a coincidence that it happens to be arriving in cinemas at the same time that there's this sort of explosion of brave people coming out and telling their stories. But I think what it shows you is that the same things that people are talking about now have been happening for a very long time, which is why we were attracted to the story. It's definitely an important theme for us in our story. But it's been happening for a really long time. It's just that these conversations, these much needed conversations, are now happening.
Question number 2 is from Alessandro Giannini. He's right over there, and he also has a beard.
So I would like to know how do you choose your roles? Which criteria do you use to choose a role? And in this specific film, I mean, Dominika, why did you choose to take this part?
Professionally, there are always certain guidelines that I want to hit before I take on a movie. I want to challenge myself. You know, acting, what I do, it's a muscle that I constantly want to strengthen. I want to work with a director who I admire and trust. It has to be a script that obviously I think is good and a character that intrigues me. And personally, sometimes I take movies for different reasons, and they affect me personally for different reasons. And sometimes you can have a chemical connection with a character. I mean, normally for me, I can read something. You know, you have to spend over 6 months sometimes being a person. So sometimes it can just be as simple as, do I want to be this person for 6 months? Do we connect? Do I understand? Can I do it? And will I be challenging myself?
Francis, let me ask you something very quickly. The books now are a trilogy. So when you got the first movie to make from the first book, are there already plans to keep on going on Dominika's story?
I mean, there's no plans that are set in stone by any means. I think that we all loved making the movie, and you certainly could tell more stories about Dominika. I mean, there's already 2 other books. I already have some ideas of where I think that we could go with the story, but we're waiting. This is not a franchise that we're shoving down people's throats by any means. There's no dates out in the future already set. But if people embrace the movie and go and see it, and it feels like it's right to make something else, I think we would love to do it again.
Now we have Felipe back there.
I'm a big fan. I know that filmmakers today, lots of them started your careers as music video directors. You have David Fincher, Mark Webb, and you. And I'm a big fan of your music videos. I want to know if you have a more favorite, maybe one in particular because it has something happen. I don't know. And if Jennifer has her favorite of your music videos.
I do.
I have a few favorites. I think for various reasons. One of my last ones was Bad Romance with Lady Gaga. I really liked that video a lot, and it was a great collaboration with her. And then there's a sort of a lesser known video that I did for Lauryn Hill, Turn Your Lights Down Low, that we did in Kingston in Jamaica. And part of what I loved about that was just that I didn't really know that much about Bob Marley, and it was a Bob Marley duet, and we went to Kingston and we shot in Tough Gong Studios and the record plant where he used to press his records, and shot in the old radio stations, and shot in the Marley, one of the Marley residences. And it was, you know, a 3-week education in, you know, the Marley family and Bob Marley. And I just found it a completely enriching experience. And I loved the song, and I loved Lauryn Hill. And So that'll always be one of my favorites as well.
I'm a slave for you, Britney Spears.
Jennifer, I have a question for you. We all hear stories about how Dustin Hoffman prepared for his role in Marathon Man, and he spent like 2 days without sleep for his torture scene. And your scenes are pretty intense. So how was the preparation for that? Did Francis torture you a little bit?
No, Francis, some of the torture scenes were some of the most fun to film. No, I don't. My theory on everything, and I'm sure I would probably be better if I was more of a professional, but I just want to be, any job that I'm doing, at the end of the day, it's work. And if I'm not happy or I'm not having fun, I'm not going to want to do it. So I have to find a way of, acting for me is an emotional release, and it's something that's healing and cathartic for me. And when we call cut, I really want to be able to be happy, be normal, to laugh, to make jokes and have fun at work. And then, when they call action, it's a different form of fun, adrenaline fun. I'm losing it.
I'm thinking about, when you tell
Thank
that
you.
story about the Marathon Man, there's that story about Dustin Hoffman running around the block 3 times or something like that to get out of breath. And Laurence Olivier stopped him and said, what are you doing? Can't you just act out of breath? Right? I think Jen is much more like Laurence Olivier.
No.
She's just going to act out of breath,
That-
as
they-
opposed to like running around the block 3 times before.
That being said, whatever Dustin Hoffman is doing is definitely
it's totally working. I'm just saying
Totally
there's 2
working.
types. They're
Yeah.
both great actors.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going to act out of breath.
Yeah, well, mostly out of laziness, though, not because I have the talent level of Laurence Olivier.
No. I'm just-
Hey, I can say it.
We have Caio here.
Joel Edgerton is in this movie, and his character has a very special relationship with Dominika. So how was the process, Jennifer, of working with him to develop this chemistry?
I mean, nobody could have been more perfect for this role than Joel Edgerton, and working with him was just such a blast. He's so funny. He and I work very similarly, where we don't like to stay too serious when we're on set, which is good for us, probably bad for Francis. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. He brought so much more to the part than what was on paper. I'm shouting again, and I don't have to.
Oh, it's okay. You're not that loud.
I'm not that loud?
No.
And not to mention, I mean, his American accent is absolutely flawless, which of course gave me a complex about my accent, but it was amazing. He was incredible.
Alice, it's you.
I know Jennifer already answered about the torture scenes, but I would like to know how it was to film that. I mean, it was hard, it was funny, I don't know.
Whenever an actor has to do something really physical on set, Francis was always we communicated very clearly. He was always very upfront and straightforward and clear about what it was going to take, what was going to be involved, and was always careful to shoot as quickly as possible. So, I mean, yeah, having your arms, tied like that wasn't great. But we got through it very quickly, and I knew what to expect. There really weren't any surprises, which is a huge benefit to working with somebody like Francis, who's incredibly organized and focused, and he has a very clear point of view, which is one of the things that I love about him as a filmmaker, even when I watch his other movies. And it's great to work with somebody like that on set, because there are no surprises.
Guys, to wrap it up, let me ask both of you. Big movies today, we see a lot of franchises, a lot of ongoing stories and characters in films. So how refreshing was it to create something that people did not see on big screen before? And is there any kind of pressure to do something that it's new to the audiences?
Well, we're in that moment where we're feeling the pressure right now. I think certainly when you go into making this movie, it feels great to be doing something that's original, that's not a reboot and not a remake of something, that feels fresh. It was also fantastic that we were backed by a studio that embraced us kind of pushing the envelope in terms of tone and not flinching at the tone and not trying to make something that's a movie that's for families necessarily, to make something more adult. And so I think it's all great, but now we're in that time where we need to see whether or not people are going to embrace a film like this. I mean, that's the scary thing, It's not a comic book movie.
All right, so thank you guys. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you for having us. And we expect you guys to come here to Brazil anytime soon.
Oh,
I
we'd
would love
love
it.
to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.